Today we're going to review the study guide and each problem that's on the study guide. As you can see, I've taken a picture of the study guide and I'm going to go through each problem individually on a different slide. So the first two questions are asking you to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So we need to think about what slope-intercept form is, which is y equals mx plus b, where the m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. So if we're given the slope and the y-intercept, all we need to do is plug them into the appropriate letter and rewrite our equation. So for the first problem, we're given that the slope is 1/2 and the y-intercept is -4. So we're going to plug in 1/2 for our slope and -4 for our b value, or our y-intercept, and this would be our equation. For the second problem, it also has the same directions, writing an equation in slope-intercept form, but this time it gives us 2 points. So we have 8,3 and -1,7. And if we're writing an equation in slope-intercept form, we need to find the slope first if it's not given to us. So we're going to find the slope by subtracting the y's over the x's, which is going to give us -4 over 9. We're going to plug that into our equation for the m value, but then we need to find the b value by using a point. So you can pick either point here, and we're going to plug in the 8 for x, which is the x coordinate, if that's the point we choose, and the 3 for y, which is the y coordinate. And we're going to solve for b. So we have y equals -4/9 x plus b. I'm going to plug in 3 for y, 8 for x, and use this to solve for b. So 3 equals -32 over 9 plus b, and we have to get b by itself, so we have to take the 32 over 9 and move it to be with the 3 away from the b. So we have 3 plus 32 over 9, which ends up giving us a fraction, which is fine, but the fraction is going to be 59 over 9. So b would be 59 over 9. So if we plug them all in, the values that we have m is -4/9 and b is 59 over 9. So we get y equals -4/9 x plus 59 over 9 as our final answer. The third problem asks us to graph. Our graph is going to be from this equation. So in order to graph this, we first need to change it into slope-intercept form. So we need to move the x value away because we want our y value by itself. So we have -4y now equals -6x plus 16. And then we're going to divide everything by -4 so that y is by itself. And that gives us -6 over -4 simplifies to +6 over 4, which also simplifies to +3 over 2x. And then we have -4, because 16 over -4 equals -4. So we're going to do plus -4. And that would be our final equation that we're going to use to graph. So what that tells me is that I'm going to start my graph on -4 on the y-axis, since that's my y-intercept. So I'm going to put 1 point there. And then my slope is +3 over 2, so that means I would go up 3 from there, 1, 2, 3, over 2. And put another point. And I only need 2 points to make my graph. So that would be my graph. The fourth question asks us to write a linear equation in slope-intercept form. And if we go back to the problem itself, it says that it's modeling the water level of a swimming pool in Tucson, Arizona, and the water level is 6 feet, and then it says the rate of evaporation, or how much the water level goes down, is 1/3 inch per day. So if I'm writing an equation in slope-intercept form, I need to find the slope and the y-intercept. The slope in any equation is going to be a rate. So if we think about, it says the rate of evaporation is 1/3 inch per day, or if I just saw the words per or for each, those kinds of words, those would all indicate that that's the slope or the rate. And then the other value, the 6 feet, is the starting point of the pool, or how much water starts in the pool. So that's going to be our y-intercept, because the y-intercept is always the starting value in a word problem. So we're going to write our equation as y equals 1/3 x plus 6 to represent that problem. Now the next problem gives us a table, and we're supposed to write an equation that matches the table. So a table is basically just two ordered pairs, or however many ordered pairs are there, is how many ordered pairs there are. So in this case, there's 2. And the ordered pairs would be here 6, 1, and -1, -2. So if I'm writing an equation, I would again need to find the slope first, so that I can then use that to find the b. So my slope is the y's over the x's, subtracted, which gives us 3/13. Oh, I'm sorry, 3/7. This is supposed to be a 1. So my slope is 3/7. Let's say I chose to use 6, 1 as the point to find my b value. I'm going to plug in 1 for y, and 6 for x. So I get 1 equals 18/7 plus b, and I want to get b by itself, so I'm going to subtract the 18/7 from both sides, and I get 1 minus 18/7, which would equal -11/7. So if I put it all together, I have y equals 3/7 x plus -11/7. My next problem asks us to write an equation in point-slope form, and it gives us a point and the slope. So we need to know the proper form for point-slope form, which is y minus y1, or the y-coordinate of the point, equals the slope, or m, times x minus x1, or the x-coordinate of the point. So my point is 4, 2. My slope is 1/2. So I'm going to plug in my 2 for the y-coordinate, since that's the y-coordinate in the point. And I'm going to plug in 1/2 for m, or the slope. And then I'm going to plug in for the x-coordinate, or the x1, I'm going to plug in 4. And I don't need to simplify because my answer needs to be in point-slope form. So that would be my answer. The next one gives us an equation in point-slope form, and I'm asked to put this into slope-intercept form. So from there, I need to simplify it. So if I see that I can distribute, I always distribute first. So I'm going to distribute the negative sign, or the -1. For each part in the parentheses. Then I'm going to combine like terms, so I need to move the 10 so that the 10 is with the -6, and that combines to be y equals negative x plus 4. And since it's slope-intercept form that they wanted, this is in slope-intercept form. So I'm done. The next problem, we need to write an equation in point-slope form again. This says for a horizontal line. So a horizontal line, the slope is 0. So that's what I'm going to use for my slope. Now the point it gives me is -2, -1. So I'm going to use that for my y-coordinate and my x-coordinate. So if I plug it into point-slope form, I have y minus my y-coordinate equals my slope times x minus my x-coordinate. And this simplifies, since it's minus a negative, to be y plus 1 equals 0 times x plus 2. That would be my final equation. And then there's two more here. The next one says I need to write an equation in slope-intercept form. It gives us a point, -1, 2, and it gives us an equation, but it says the equation that I write needs to be parallel to this equation. So the first thing I need to do with the equation they gave me is I need to make it into slope-intercept form, because I need my slope first. So I need to make this into slope-intercept form to figure out my slope by moving the x over and then getting rid of the 2 so that y is by itself. So I get -1/2 x plus 2. Now I'm writing a parallel equation to that that's going through this point, -1, 2. So parallel means I keep the same slope, which would be -1/2. I'm just going to use my point to find a new b value. So my point is -1, 2. My slope was -1/2. So I'm rewriting it with my slope staying the same, since I want it to be a parallel equation, and I'm plugging in my point, the y for y and the x for x, to solve for b. So I need to get b by itself. That means I subtract the 1/2, so I get 3/2, or 1 1/2 for b. So if I put it all together, I have y equals -1/2 x plus 3/2. And then the last problem on the study guide is going to be a bonus problem on the quiz. So I'm going to leave the explanation out for that, and I want you guys to try the bonus on the quiz. Okay? And so that would conclude what you will see tomorrow for your quiz.